In your food scraps residential collection service business, it won't take too many customers before you realize that you need a method for keeping track of them and payments. This spreadsheet will help you do just that, but more importantly, it will generate metrics for you such as average lifetime revenue, acquisition rate, churn rate, and net gain loss rate of your customers. And patterns that will help you make more informed decisions will be made more obvious. So let's take a look. Let me say ahead of time that this spreadsheet's a lot smaller than the one I actually used. I made it smaller for simplicity. And of course, the names and contact information are all fictional. I didn't want to have any real people in that. Okay, this is a walkthrough of the spreadsheet of your food scrap collection customers. You can see we've only got an example, a bunch of people who don't really exist, and only 21 of them just by way of example. Their contact information here, or names, contact information, and then several other columns we'll go over. We're going to generate some useful numbers for us here, and then after that we'll delve into some of these other, or all of these other worksheets and put that to work for us. So again, last name, first name for each of our participants, their phone number, their email, their address, okay, the date they started with our service, how far they've paid through, right? Continuing to pay through and use our service. And then the next two columns, we're going to do a few things with customer acquisition. Where did they find out about us? Why did they join? And so the source type and the source. For example, our first customer here heard about us in a Johnson City Press article, so a news article, which would be press. But you see, we get more people when we have booths at festivals, such as the Meet the Mountain Festival or the Umoja Festival. We also get quite a few people from presentations that I give at maybe garden clubs, also referrals, customers that are existing and want to bring in more customers. Of course, there's always social media posts that help. But anyhow, this next column, months. How long have these individual participants been with us? And from that, we'll calculate here at the bottom the average participation time and the average lifetime revenue of our customers. So what you do, you click on this top cell for the first customer in our list, and you go to the functions menu, come down to date, and we're talking about the difference in two dates, right? Okay. And it's blinking here. It puts in this formula that we could have typed out, but we just used the menu. And then we click first on the date that we started with them. We put a little comma. Then the date that they're paid up through, and another comma. And we could put in M for month, but we're going to be a little more precise and put in quotation mark, D for day, and quotation mark. Okay, that tells us how many days, right? But that's a little unwieldy. So I click back on there. I come to where this formula is up here, and I put divided by 30.4, because on average a month has 30.4 days. And I click. Okay, so that's how we get an actual precise number. This particular participant, Sven, has been participating for 79 months. Okay, now we want to do the same for everybody, but it's nice and easy. You can copy and paste it, or you can just drag this down. Okay, and it'll automatically put in the same formula for each individual person, and it will recognize what row it's on, right? Okay, now all of this is leading up to this. On average, how long do our customers stay with us? So what you do is you click here. Again, let's go back up to the functions to make it easy. We want the average. Okay, it's blinking there. It wants to know the average of what, and while it's highlighted, I highlight all the things I wanted averaged for. I hit enter on my keyboard, and there you go. On average, our customers stay with us for 50 months. That's pretty good. Now, let's take it a step further and use this number to find out on average what is the average lifetime revenue of our customers. And again, they're ongoing customers, so that continues to increase and it will be updated automatically. So now I've got this highlighted and I'm going to click up here. I'm going to enter in a formula. I say I want this to be equal, so I first put equal. Okay, not the sum of all of those, but if I, as I was up until recently running this and charging $20 per month, I take this number, but this number is going to change. So whatever number is in here, this is J22. I'm going to multiply that by 20. So I put J22, that's the cell, times 20. Okay? So that looks pretty good. But then I remember, oh, actually, the first half month, I give them for free. If I charge $20 a month, half a month is $10. So I'm going to click back on here and change that a bit. I'm going to say this number whatever comes out of this number, subtract 10, there we go, 999. So explaining again, this is the average lifetime revenue for our customers, for each one of them, right? And what we did was we took the average amount of months that they're with us. That's what is in J22. Okay. We said J22 times 20. And whatever that number is, we're going to go ahead and subtract 10 off because I always give people the first half month for free. Okay. So again, that's how you keep track of people. That's how you automatically update the number of months that every individual has been a customer of yours, and that will also automatically update their average time as a customer and your average lifetime revenue for an individual customer. All right, great. Let's move on. What if we add someone? What if we lose someone? Okay, to add someone, you just insert a row. I've got these alphabetized by last name. So let's say we add me, Joe Hoffman. So I'm going to need to be between Gutierrez and Lynn. Excuse me. So I'm going to highlight this row, insert a row above, okay, and enter in all of my information. Hoffman, come over, Joe. Let's do a different number. And let's say I'm in the same false email. Okay, and the road I'm living on happens to be Boyd Street. Okay, and let's say I join in it's July 20th of 2022, and when I first start, I get a couple of weeks for free. So what would that put me at? About, let's do it kind of quick. Let's say it's August 4th, right? I'm already paid up through then because it's complimentary, it's free. Okay, and how did I hear about the company? Let's say I talked to someone at a festival, and that festival was Meet the Mountains. Okay, good. So now we want it to automatically, and from now on to automatically calculate how many months I've been in, and then to change, of course, the average participation time and the average lifetime revenue. So all I have to do is click on any one of these. I hit copy. I hit paste. I'm doing it with my keyboard. You could, of course, use this. And it has 0, which doesn't sound good, but it's correct. I have yet to have a full month in. And notice it has the correct formula up here, right? And it's using F11 and G11, which pertain to me. Okay, and let's say I pay after this for 3 months, so $60, right? So 3 months instead of 8, this is what I would change. That becomes 11. Okay, and it changed it to 4 because of that. You know, it's actually a little over 3 months. But anyhow, notice here we've got this automatically calculated. It automatically updated this. It automatically updated that. So what you want to do with these spreadsheets is just use them as much as you can to make things automatic. All right. Now, what if I move? Okay. So now I'm not an active participant. We're going to move me over to the X residential worksheet, right? So what I do, it's easy enough. I highlight it, my whole row. I want to cut it. I come over to this worksheet, and I may or may not have this in alphabetical order. Let's say I don't. I'm just putting people in as they move or quit. So I insert a row, and now I insert my information, right? Okay, now this spreadsheet, pretty much the same. Date started, date paid, source of where we got the customer, right? The type and the actual place. The months are calculated, right? Now, here again, we've got the average. We calculated it in the same way. We've got the average lifetime revenue calculated in the same way. And okay, actually, you do want to be careful because when you insert someone, notice when I check the average, it only goes through 16. It didn't include the new person. So sometimes you have to make sure it includes everything. Okay. Good. And a few other things we're going to add in this worksheet. Why did the person leave? Every now and then you want to take a look and see, are people leaving for some problem they have with your service? Or, as in the case with me, most of the people have left just because they've moved. Okay, and the date quit, usually it's going to be the same as the date that they've paid through. Oops. Okay, but notice that some people, and if that's the case, do they have an outstanding invoice? Do they owe any money? No, if they've paid the whole way through. But notice sometimes there are people that, yes, they owed money, you can't get a hold of them, and so they still have an outstanding invoice. And handle that however you want. I usually try a few times, a few emails, a few phone calls, but I'm not going to burst their door down. Now, again, one of the advantages of keeping all this information is to keep an eye on what it is that's causing people to leave. If you feel like a lot of people are leaving, or it's just a good idea to keep track of it. So one thing I like to do is I'll highlight the whole column of why people left, and I'll copy that, and I'll just temporarily put it elsewhere, a copy, right? And then I'll sort it, okay? So I go to, while it's still highlighted, I go to data, I don't want to sort the whole sheet, just the range, just the area that I have highlighted. Okay? And notice what it does for me. It puts it in alphabetical order. And the handiness here is I can see, okay, how many people left for different reasons. Okay, if people left because they moved out of our zone, there's not much I can do about it. I don't think, okay, I've got a problem here. These people have gotten chickens and they wanted to give their food scraps to the chickens. Someone decided to try composting on their own. This is a little more worrisome on a personal level. Someone was too sick to keep up. And this is worrisome in that I use the word unengaged. Sometimes you'll get a customer that may be very enthusiastic and they might participate a bit, and then they just kind of ghost you. They don't pay. They don't. They quit putting their bucket out. They don't communicate. They've kind of they're just saying the heck with it, I guess. So, and that can be a little bit irritating. Notice up here the people that still have an outstanding invoice. It's people who have just decided to forget about the whole thing and didn't bother to let you know about it. Now, on this sheet, it's several people, but in fact, it's very few people in reality that have done that, but it does happen. Okay, so yeah, it's always good to keep an idea on why people have decided to quit the service. One last commentary on this worksheet. I think it's very good if you keep your ex-customers, keep their information. Sometimes they like to hear from you about your product, or maybe you offer some kind of special offer if they're if you'd like them to give it another shot. Who knows? Of course, if anyone specifically says, hey, quit contacting me, you want to make a note of that and remove them from your list. And notice when I moved myself, in this case, when I moved a customer from the residential to the ex-residential worksheet, I do need to make sure that back on the residential worksheet, you see there's a space. Go ahead and just go to edit and delete that row. Okay, great. Let's move along. The commercial worksheet, pretty much the same as the residential. You see I don't have a whole lot going on here because there aren't as many customers, and notice that it's a little different because some of them are paying different amounts. Okay, now more importantly, let's move on to this. This is where we're really going to get some of our information: acquisition, churn, and net change rate. Just going across the columns, of course, you can tell these are old months here, but I'm going to share that information with you. This is real information from my own business. Next column is the number of customers at the beginning of the month. The beginning of March 2017, I had 59. Okay, how many new customers did I get in that month? 8. Okay, from that we'll calculate the acquisition rate. How many quit during that month? 1. From that we'll calculate the churn rate, which is your rate of people who are quitting. And we'll also calculate the net gain or loss of people during that month, and then the net change rate. Okay, and once we have these formulas in, it'll all fill in for us. We might, here it says events. These aren't events as in a festival, but events that may have caused some blip, more people leaving, more people coming in, that kind of thing. Okay, and after we enter that in, we'll get some useful averages. But let's go bit by bit. Of course, if we started a month with 59 people, and in that month we got 8 people, okay, the acquisition rate is just equal to the number of new people divided by how many we started with, right? So again, we're not going to want to do all that math, especially all the way down. We want it to be done automatically for us. So we're going to say take cell C2, that's what this one's called. Okay, so in this cell, I have that this is going to be equal to C2 divided by cell B2. Okay, 14%. It's in a nice percent because I had done this before. You might get some weird decimal. If you do, just highlight it, click on percent. It'll change it to a percent. If it has 14 point blah, 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 you can get rid of some of those decimals by clicking here. Because remember, these numbers are not extremely precise, so you don't want to have a whole lot of place values after the decimal point. Okay, in this same month, we did get one person to quit. So the churn rate is how many people are quitting for how many people you had, right? So again, I'm going to want this to be equal to, it did it for me, but it's wrong. We want it equal to E2 divided, not by D2, but divided by B2, which is the number we had at the beginning. Okay, good. And again, it already has it in a nice percent because that's what I was working with. Okay, the net gain or loss, it's like we got 8, we lost 1, so it ends up being a gain of 7, right? But again, we don't want to be doing this all the time. So we'll say, take C2, whatever is in there, and subtract whatever is in E2, right? How many did we get minus how many did we lose, right? Now it's already anticipating that we're going to do this all the way down, and we will. Now the net change rate, we take this, it's 7, right? But this is cell G2, and again we divide it by our beginning. So what was that, G2, and we divide it by B2. All right, good. Now, as I said, we're going to go all the way down with this. Also, if we got 8, we lost 1, right? So a net gain of 7. We started with 59 in this month. That means we gained 7, right? So we're going to take whatever is in this cell, we're going to add it to whatever is in that cell, and that'll give us the next one. So I click here, I say, take B2 and add G2. Okay, so now this month we start with 66. All right. Now let's go ahead and fill this all the way down, okay, for each of these. So let's continue here. I'm going to go ahead and fill this all the way down. Well, you know what? Let's do this. Let's start with net gain or loss all the way down. And the reason I did that is we already had the information it needed, right? These others depend on the other ones, right? So now I'm going to take this one and fill it in all the way down. Okay, and it looks kind of nice. We start at 59, we end up with 208. I like that. Okay, acquisition rate. Click on it, use all those numbers. We don't want to be entering anything in. Thank you. It's done, right? Notice sometimes we're getting high acquisition rates. In 1 month, we're getting 17% new people, right? Churn rate, the people we're losing. Okay, usually 1 or 2, but occasionally high numbers. And we'll talk about that in a moment. Net change reflects these other 2 as well. Okay, good. Now I happen to know that there's a very good reason why we suffered this 22 people leaving, right? 5 people leaving, 9 people leaving. That's because, let me put this in the right place here. Okay, so in March of 2018, I announced that there was going to be a price increase, right? I was doing it only for $10 a month. That was no good at all. I knew I had to go at least to 20, which was necessary, but it caused a number of people to say no thanks. So I'm going to put it here so I know what caused that blip. I announced that in June, not right away, but in June, there would be a June price increase, right? Now, it wasn't until June that the price actually did increase, right? So people knew about it, but once that price increased, that's when people started to drop off. So as I said, the price didn't just increase. I doubled it. Had to, but it caused people to leave. So the leavers, the people who left, had given notice, right? And again, no hard feeling, but they're like, I don't want to pay that much. No problem. Okay. So that explains this high churn in the middle. We're going to get averages for all of these columns, and some are going to be more meaningful than others. So let's go ahead and just get them in there, and then we can talk about it. I click on this cell. I want the average of how many customers we have at the beginning of each month. So I click on average, and it's saying the average of what? So I highlight the average I wanted to make, right? And then I hit enter on my keyboard. Okay, an average of 171 customers at the beginning of the month. This is one that is not really that meaningful, right? Because we can already see the trend. We're starting low, we're going up, and then it kind of, thanks to this price increase, it dips, and then it may go up and down a bit, but it sure doesn't enjoy that very rapid early growth, right? Okay, let's continue this though. Let's have an average of how many people we would get a month. And you can see it's, sometimes just one or so, and sometimes it's 10. For an average of 4. Okay, now this is going to be a little interesting here. We say, what about the acquisition rate? On average, what was our acquisition rate? Okay, it says 6% there. That's the average of these numbers. But what if I say, okay, I take 4, I divide it by 171. Shouldn't that give us the same acquisition rate? Okay, let's see. What is that? C33 divided by B33. No, and not only is it not the same, but it's very different. And why would this be? That's because the very high acquisition rates, were when we had a relatively small number of people. Okay. All right, continuing on. The average of how many people would quit in a month. Enter. 3. So the average churn rate, let me click here. Okay, and we actually dealt with what would cause an abnormally high churn rate of people leaving. For us, it made all the sense in the world, that big price increase, right? Okay, so the average net gain or loss. Okay, and then similar with that, the average of the percentage net gain or loss. Now, what do I take out of all of these numbers, right? I'll admit, some of it's not that concerning. No surprise that when people are used to a low price and then it's raised quite a bit, that you're going to lose quite a few of them. That's fine. But remember, I doubled my price, only lost 10%, so I actually was getting a lot more money for a lot less work. So it was the right thing to do. It was the necessary thing to do. The more concerning thing is the acquisition rate. Now it makes sense. When you don't have many people, not many people know about you, everything you do over these months spreads the word a little more. People find out about you, so you have higher growth. As you get bigger, see we have more people, well, you might be doing the same things to try and let people know you exist, but it's plateauing. Okay, now this might be a problem. It was a problem for us because you say, okay, 200 people, that's certainly a lot better than 59. But what if you've calculated that you need 300 or 500? and you just are having trouble moving beyond 200 or 210, it might be time to make some decisions, make some communications. You might tell your participants, listen, we really need to get more people, or else I'm either going to have to raise my price or pivot or something like that. But yeah, this tells me, this is to me the most important part of this whole worksheet. It tells me that in this community, for this, especially this new price point, that try as I might, I'm not as able to increase the number of participants, and I, of course, continued to try different things to get more people, but it represents a bit of a plateau. Okay, so let's be smart about it. Some opportunities would be to increase the price, or to target more effectively how you get new people. Where are they really coming from? Who stays, right? And that brings us to the last part of our spreadsheet, the last worksheet that I've got here labeled customer acquisition. Now, as I say on here, and part of this I put here for those people who do want to buy and download the this spreadsheet, you're going to go to the residential worksheet, and over here you're going to go to the X residential worksheet and copy and paste these columns. Which ones? Well, right here, source type, source, and length of time, or as we had there, months. And for the X customers, the same, but also the reason for leaving. This might give us a little bit of information too. So let's do this one first. Source type, source, and length of time. So I highlight. Actually, I don't want the title, I just want the information here. So I do this, I highlight these, okay? And I copy it. Okay, and I come back over to that customer acquisition. Okay, I come down, I don't know, it was something like, this should be plenty. And I paste it. Good. Now, what happened to our numbers, right? Remember, these were formula in the other worksheet. So what I do here is I right click and I say paste special. I just want the values. Just give me the numbers. There they are. Good. Now we're going to do the same from the X residential, but remember, we want source type, source, length of time, and the reason for leaving. So I come over here, source type, source, the length of time, and the reason for leaving. Oops. Okay. Copy. Come back over here, customer acquisition. This is a space I want to put it in. That's probably more than I need. Paste. Good. Again, what happened to our numbers? I'll right click, say, listen, just the values. Good. Okay. Now, let me show you something else that is useful. Actually, we did it on the other spreadsheet. Let's take the source type and everything in this area and go to data. Not the whole sheet, but let's sort the range. Okay. Good. We'll do the same over here. We'll highlight this. We'll sort the range. Okay, now a couple things jump out to us. The current participants, all of them, have been with us for a long time. The people who did it but aren't anymore, they typically don't last that long. So you can be assured that if someone stays for a while, they will normally stay for a long time. They're committed. But what about some of these larger numbers? They stayed for a while. Okay, but why'd they leave? Well, they moved. Okay, people move. Why'd they leave our service again? They moved. But people who were unengaged, who wouldn't even communicate, that usually happened pretty darn quick, right? This person, they did it for a few months, and maybe the last couple months I didn't even hear of them, that kind of thing. Okay, now this is very important, especially when you've got a couple hundred people to look at. This that we're doing right now will tell you where to spend your energies so you can really communicate with people who are committed to this idea and who will stay for the long haul, right? And how you can break through the plateau of customers we talked about. Okay, so what kind of sources and what specific sources are getting us these people, the people who stay? Okay, sometimes an ad. Notice none of these are print ads for me. I spent a lot of money and it didn't work very well at all. But there's some ads over here, right? I did, and this is true for my business, I did use Nextdoor some, spent some money, put in some time on it, and really didn't get hardly anybody. And the very few people who did not last long, not engaged, right? But when people interacted with our ads on Facebook, for whatever reason, they were more likely to be committed to the idea. Okay, what about festivals? People that, and here we have 3, but in my actual business there were dozens. People that I interacted with at these festivals, they understood, the communication was really good and thorough there. So I got a lot of people who stayed for a long time. Now here we have some people from the festival too that didn't stay, but look, why? Well, they moved, right? What about presentations? Great way to spread the word and to get people involved, but this is something to pay attention to. I had a lot of fun. This is mislabeled, that should say festival. Okay. I had a lot of fun at presentations with the Kiwanis Club, and there were quite a few, but I gotta tell you, as interesting as those conversations were, and it was good to get the word out to the public, I got very, very few people that actually decide to participate, and those few that did dropped off the face of the earth, didn't even find out why they quit, unengaged. And when it says unengaged, that means that was a person that I finally gave up on. So again, good people, but as far as spending my time and going after the people that really are interested in doing this, this tells me that I should not prioritize that particular group, just to be blunt. Referrals tend to be fantastic. When a customer you have refers someone else and they decide to do it, that usually is a great customer. They stay with you. Of course, again, some people move, right? And yeah, social media posts, one good thing about them is they're free. I should be better about that. Sometimes people either move, or in this case, they got their own chickens, so they wanted to give their scraps to that. And yeah, again, this person sadly was quite ill. So again, to sum up, this kind of information that we're collecting here, right, and we're keeping here, and we're analyzing here and here, will help you make the decisions, go to the places and the groups that will put you in contact with people that are committed to this idea and to help your business succeed. Again, this spreadsheet is available for download. I encourage you to make it yourself for free, but it's available as a paid download via the link in the description. Thank you.